Sylvie's here.
Group's here.
Holzman's here.
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
Holzman, I think you did not come in last in our football league. Congratulations.
I avoided the Sacco, and I got to tell you, I won a championship in one of my other leagues, first place, and I was more interested in watching the outcome of that final game than I was in my championship.
I understand that. Well, congratulations on your other league.
Hey, thanks. And did you end up winning ours? You did, didn't you?
I did. I squeaked it out in the last game there with by 4 points.
That's great. You're the Mighty Oscars, right?
Yeah.
He also did not come in last in our league. He plays a lot of leagues.
Well, and what did you finish third in our league there, Mr. Chairman?
I did. I finished third. Was going for the repeat and fell short last week. But I will note that I scored more points on Championship Sunday than every team. I just lost the week before.
Well,
them's the breaks.
Kenny, sir.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Everybody have good Christmas holiday?
Yeah, just traveling around Western and mid-Mo for me. How about you guys?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Smaller than usual, but it was good.
Yeah, same here for us too.
Nada Coleman is here.
Didn't see the extended family all that much, but I didn't hear me or my wife really complaining about it, so it all worked out.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Nada.
Commissioner.
Good morning.
All right, well, it is 10:15. All commissioners are in attendance, so we will go ahead and call the December 30th, 2020 agenda meeting of the Public Service Commission to order. Due to COVID-19, we will continue conducting our agendas via WebEx for the foreseeable future. I ask those that are participating on the call, please mute your phone unless you need to speak. First order of business is to approve the minutes from December 16th of 2020. You all have seen those. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from December 16th, 2020, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those minutes are approved 5-0. So we have a pretty busy day today. We've got 8 tariffs and new orders, 1 case discussion, and then 1 closed agenda item for personnel. So we'll go ahead and get into it. Tariffs and new orders. First up is file number GR 2021-0108. This is in the matter of Spire Missouri Inc., DBA Spire's request for authority to implement a general rate increase for natural gas service provided in the company's Missouri service areas. So Spire filed tariff sheets for a general rate increase. This order suspends those tariff sheets and sets an evidentiary hearing for July 12th through 16th and July 22nd through the 30th of 2021. Recommend that we support this order as drafted version 3. Commissioner Kinney.
I'm in agreement. I concur.
Commissioner Roop,
I agree as well.
Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
and Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
All right, all those in favor of approving the order as drafted version 3 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. Next up, file number WR 2020-0275. This is in the matter of Elm Hills Utility Operating Company, Inc.'s request for a water and sewer rate increase. So Elm Hills initiated a rate case under the Commission's rules of staff-assisted rate case procedures. We conducted virtual local public hearings, and public comments were also filed. After Elms Hills and staff filed an agreement, Public Counsel opposed the agreement and requested an evidentiary hearing. However, prior to the scheduled hearing, Elm Hills and Public Counsel filed a non-unanimous disposition agreement that resolved all contested issues. So under the terms of the OPC Elm Hills agreement, the revenue requirement levels were established for the water and sewer systems. First, instead of the company's initial request for an increase of over $135,000 in revenue for water service, the agreement permits an increase for a little over $64,000. And instead of Elms Hills' initial request of over $393,000 of additional revenue for sewer service, this agreement sets an increase in revenue of about $326,500. So the agreement also consolidates rates for 4 sewer systems and has Elm Hills agreeing to involve Public Counsel and staff in financing discussions with prospective lenders, and that will hopefully result in lower cost debt financing. Also, within 6 months, the company will install meters for the Elm Hills Mobile Home Park and adopt staff's auditing department recommendations, including tracking time records for work performed by Central States Water Resources. Staff indicated that it does not oppose the Elm Hills OPC agreement. Having reviewed the terms of the agreement, including the capital structure and cost of debt, I think the agreement results in just and reasonable rates, and supports this order approving the agreement and authorizing the company to file tariff sheets consistent with the terms of the agreement. So I support this order, version 3. Commissioner Kenny.
Yeah, I might make mention that, I know this, the rates in this are a substantial increase, but as I've noticed in my tenure, this is what happens when systems are uncared for. And I do support the agreement. I think it's the best for the ratepayers.
Thank you, Commissioner. It is a common theme with these small systems. Commissioner Root.
I also am in agreement with the order.
Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
And Commissioner Holzman.
Yeah, I really echo what Commissioner Kennedy pointed out. I mean, took the word right out of my mouth. This is an example of what happens when systems aren't taken care of. So, but I do support the order.
All right, all those in favor of approving the order as drafted, version 3, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. Next up, file number EA 2021-0087. This is in the matter of the application of Ameren Transmission Company of Illinois for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to construct, install, own, operate, maintain, and otherwise control and manage a 138 kV transmission line and associated facilities in Perry and Cape Girardeau counties. In September, Ameren Transmission Company, or ATXI, submitted notice that it intends to file an application for authority to construct a 138 kV transmission line and a substation in Perry and Cape Girardeau counties. Earlier this month, ATXI filed a motion requesting a waiver from the Commission's rule requiring an in-person public meeting in each county before the company can file its CCN application. Due to the safety concerns related to COVID, ATXI is asking for the requirement in paragraph 3 and section 6 sub K of 20 CSR 4240-20.045 be waived. And that is the paragraph that requires a public meeting to be held in a building open to the public and sufficient to accommodate the number of persons in the county entitled to receive notice of the application. So when reviewing the motion, I considered why we have this rule requiring the utility to hold public meetings before coming to the Commission with an application. And the rule basically ensures that landowners are involved in the process and that they have access to information and the ability to voice their concerns directly to the company and ultimately so that hopefully the company can consider those concerns when finalizing their application. But as ATXI and staff have pointed out, the company has undertaken several outreach efforts allowing landowners to be involved and informed. The company has hosted community representative forums in June. They also hosted 4 virtual public meetings in August and October. They had 26 and 68 attendees, respectively. And as an alternative to the in-person public hearing, ATXI plans to host a virtual meeting via webinar on January 21st at noon, and a teletown hall on the evening of the 21st. There will be a helpline available to handle technical issues. After the public webinar, there will be PDFs of the presentations from the meetings available via the website, email, or mailed upon request. So I know there have been public comments filed in this matter opposing the motion and expressing concerns that elderly residents in the area may not have adequate internet access to participate in those virtual meetings. And I think those are legitimate concerns, but I also think that those concerns are outweighed by the serious risk of public health and safety if we require large in-person gatherings during a pandemic, particularly in 2 counties that, it's been pointed out, are classified as Category 1 extreme risk by their county health departments. So since there's an alternative for people with poor or no internet to call into a teletown hall on January 21st and ask questions or submit comments, I feel more comfortable with this request for a waiver. So I do believe there is good cause to grant the requested waiver and recommend that we support the order as drafted version 2. Commissioner Kinney?
For all the reasons you stated, I support the order.
Thank you. Commissioner Roop?
Yeah, also, I'm supporting the order, but also just, want to point out that people can continue to file comments via the U.S. mail or email. So if they don't have internet access or if they're unable to make it that time, we still do accept comments, far after that by various different means. So it's just like if we have a local public hearing at noon and people have to work, unfortunately can't have one that accommodates everyone. But I think the commission has done a good job in the past of making it available for people to let their voices be heard in many different mediums. So yes, I'm supporting the order.
Thank you, Commissioner. You raise excellent points, and something that I forgot to mention, this is a long process, and this is kind of a pre-process to the actual process to begin with. So if this does result in a CCN application, there will be opportunity for people to provide input to this commission via local public hearings and actual hearings to collect evidence and testimony. So we'll remind everyone of that as well. Commissioner Coleman?
Thank you, both Commissioners, Commissioner Roop and Chairman Sylvie, for those points. They are important, and I support the order.
Thank you. Commissioner Holzman?
I support the order.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the order as drafted version 2 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. Next up, file number HT 2020-0223. This is in the matter of Veolia Energy Kansas City, Inc.'s adjustment to its PACC tariff. This order approves a stipulation and agreement between Vicinity Energy Kansas City, which is formerly Veolia Energy, and staff. The agreement resolves an issue concerning the company's production adjustment cost clause, or the PACC. The PACC acts like an FAC that tracks the fuel and consumable cost increases and decreases, with 95% of those changes being charged or credited to customers. After the PACC tariff was approved, the City of Kansas City unilaterally changed its sewer billing method for Cargill, which resulted in a double billing of Cargill. And since the city was giving Vicinity a credit for the overbilling that was intended to be reimbursed to Cargill, it skewed the calculations and credits to customers through the PACC tariff by making it appear that Vicinity's sewer expense had decreased. So this agreement looks to correct those issues from the city's sewer billing and the improper credits by identifying how sewer changes will be set in the 2020 through 2022 PACC filings. No party is opposed to the agreement, and I support the order's drafted version 2. Commissioner Kinney?
I support the order.
Commissioner Roop?
As do I.
Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
and Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
All right, all those in favor of approving the order as drafted version 2 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. Next up, file number GE 2021-0049. This is in the matter of the application of Raceline Alternative Energy Services, LLC, for a permanent waiver from certain provisions of 20 CSR 4240-40.030. Raceline filed an application requesting a waiver of the Commission's gas odorization rule for its gas transmission line in Putnam County. The company's pipeline transports renewable natural gas for about 3.79 miles from hog farms to an interstate pipeline. That interstate pipeline is not odorized, so the company would then be required to remove any odorant before injection. Staff reviewed the application and recommended that it be approved subject to specific conditions, which the company has agreed to, including performing leakage surveys and patrols along the pipeline at least 4 times a year. No other comments were received. I believe that the conditions suggested by staff and the waiver will not compromise gas safety, so I do support this order granting the waiver, and this is version 1. Commissioner Kinney,
I support the order.
Commissioner Roop,
As do I.
Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
and Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
All right, all those in favor of approving the order as drafted version 1 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. Next up, file numbers GR 2021-0127 and GR 2021-0128. This is in the matter of Spire, Missouri, Inc., DBA Spire East, purchase gas adjustment, tariff filing. So this order grants the separate applications of the Environmental Defense Fund, Midwest Energy Consumers Group, and the Consumers Council of Missouri to intervene in these cases. Spire opposed the Consumer Council's and the Environmental Defense Fund's intervention in the Spire West ACA case, since Spire argues that any interest in the impacts of the St. Louis pipeline would only impact the Spire East service territory. Spire also requested MECG be ordered to identify the rate classes its clients belong to and how their interests would be impacted in the cases. However, as this order points out, I believe that all 3 entities have identified an interest that is different than the general public, which could be impacted by the final order. I also think that entities which represent interests such as environmental concerns, large and industrial consumers, or educating and empowering consumers will ultimately further the public interest if allowed to intervene. And we've typically had a very broad interpretation of those that we allow to intervene. So I would support this order, version 3. Commissioner Kinney,
I'm in support.
Commissioner Roop,
I am supporting the order.
Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
and Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
All right, all those in favor of approving the order as drafted version 3 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. Next up, file number GE 2020-0373. This is in the matter of the request of Spire, Missouri, Inc., DBA Spire, for a temporary waiver from Commission rules in 20 CSR 4240-40.030 and orders pertaining to inspections and replacements. Earlier this month, the Commission issued an order extending Spire's temporary waiver of certain Commission gas and safety rules to accommodate social distancing concerns due to COVID. To comply with the federal notice requirements requiring the Commission to give PHMSA at least 60 days notice to an opportunity to object before the waiver goes into effect, that December 2nd extension order had a February 1st, 2021 effective date. Staff filed notice that it has received notice from PHMSA that it does not object to the Commission's order extending the waiver period. After that, Spire then filed a motion stating that since PHMSA does not object, the Commission should modify our December 2nd order to have a January 1st effective date, since the initial order granting the temporary waiver could expire after December 31st. Staff filed a response stating it doesn't oppose that request, so option A of this order grants the request to modify the effective date of the Commission's December 2nd order. However, to allow for at least 10 days notice, this order will modify the effective date to January 9th, not January 1st as Spire had requested. So I recommend that we approve this order as drafted version 2. Commissioner Kenny,
I support the order.
Commissioner Roop,
I am supporting the order.
Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
and Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
All right, all those in favor of approving the order as drafted version 2 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That order is now approved 5-0. Final order today, file number RO 2021-0169. This is in the matter of USCOC of Greater Missouri, LLC, DBA US Cellular's notice of partial ETC relinquishment. US Cellular notified the commission that it has sold a portion of its Missouri network in the St. Joseph Basic Trading Area. So the company has decided to relinquish its eligible transmission carrier designation in that area. Staff reviewed the notice of the relinquishment and stated that US Cellular has met both commission and federal requirements. Staff recommends the commission permit the ETC relinquishment for the portions of the company's service territory, which means that the company will not be eligible to receive federal high cost and low income support for those areas. I recommend that we support the order as drafted version 2. Commissioner Kenny,
I support the order.
Commissioner Roop,
As do I.
Commissioner Coleman,
I concur.
and Commissioner Holzman.
Affirmative.
All right, all those in favor of approving the final order version 2 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. So that concludes reports and orders. Next order of business is case discussion. We have a case discussion today in file number EU 2020-0350. This is Evergy's COVID-19 AAO post-hearing discussion. Judge Jacobs, would you like to set this up? I know we have a memo that we're going to work through. But do you have any opening comments?
Thank you, Chairman. The only opening comments I would make is just to remind you that we had a hearing in this case on November 12th and 13th, and I prepared an extensive memo for you that goes through all the issues and positions, and I believe that has been further distilled for your discussion today. So you can just get started with those issues, and if you have any questions for me, I'll be here.
Okay, appreciate that, and thank you for the very extensive memo. Definitely a lot of issues that we need to work through. So first up, question number 1, I'm assuming all of the commissioners are working off the same memo. Question number 1, has Evergy demonstrated the impacts on the COVID-19 pandemic that qualify for accounting authority order treatment? Yeah, I think generally the accounting authority orders should be the exception and only granted in limited circumstances, which I think is consistent with what the commission has previously characterized as the Sibley standard, or by looking to general instruction number 7 of the Uniform System of Accounts. I mean, we've all altered our lives due to COVID, and I think that Evergy has shown that the COVID pandemic is an unusual nature, it's unique, hopefully infrequent. So in short, an extraordinary event that has resulted in various abnormal activities and effects on the company. And I'd also point out that I don't find persuasive OPC's position in its briefs that under instruction 7, to be considered extraordinary, the item must meet materiality of at least 5% of the utility's income, primarily because OPC always appears to exclude from its quote of that instruction, number 7, the very last sentence, which says, quote, commission approval must be obtained to treat an item of less than 5% as extraordinary. So the fact that it envisions that there is a situation where something less than 5% can be extraordinary, I think proves that is the case. But to address the materiality issue, because AAOs are fundamentally inconsistent with the matching principle, I don't think that they should be liberally granted or requested. I think that in evaluating materiality, whether the impact is more than 5% of income can help to show the significance of an event. But in a situation like this, where the financial impacts on the company are still ongoing and not fully known, materiality may be relevant, but I don't think it's dispositive of whether COVID is in fact an extraordinary event. So a majority of the parties have reached a non-unanimous agreement, but since the agreement was unopposed, it has to be treated as a position statement. Now, the commission can consider if separate terms and conditions in a non-unanimous stipulation are reasonable and supported by competent and substantial evidence in the record. So rather than addressing all of the terms of the agreement should be approved as written, I would prefer in this discussion to go through the separate issues that will touch on the terms of the non-unanimous agreement as well as the other party's position. But in short answer on the first question, yes, I think that this is an extraordinary event. Commissioner Kenny?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think that you've done an excellent job explaining your position. And obviously that we haven't had a pandemic of this nature in over 180 years. So obviously it's extraordinary, it's unusual, and hopefully it is not reoccurring. But so yes, and I also agree with you on the materiality aspect of it. So that's where I am.
Okay, Commissioner Roop?
I will echo both of your comments.
Commissioner Coleman?
I agree with the comment.
And Commissioner Holzman?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we're clear on number one. Question two, if the answer is yes, what cost items should Evergy be authorized to defer? So this one, you'll see subparts A through G. I'm going to go ahead and say A through E. So A, B, C, D, and E should all be included. Commissioner Kenny?
I may have a wrong position sheet, because I show 2 as if the commission determines financial impacts of Evergy. So my number 4 goes A through G. Is that what you're on right now?
Yeah, the question that I have is, if the answer to the first question is yes, what cost items should Evergy be authorized to defer? And then A through G. So I think that is your question number 4. It appears.
Yes, correct. Yes, I'm in support of that. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think the memo may have a later version than that one. So, okay, so for that question though, what cost should Evergy be authorized to defer? A, B, C, D, and E. I think they should all be allowed.
And I concur with that.
Okay.
I don't agree with G. Was that your statement?
Well, we're going to get to F. I don't agree with F and
Okay,
G, which I'll explain in a minute. So
I'm sorry. Okay.
A through E,
I'm good with A through F.
I'm good with. So if anybody has a problem with A through E, I think that's where we're at. So Commissioner Roop, A through E.
Yeah, I'm agreeing A through E is yes and no on F and G.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman?
I'm in agreement with A through E. I'm a yes.
Okay. Commissioner Holzman?
Yes on A through E, no on F and G.
Okay. Well, I'm also no on F and G. I don't think it's appropriate to include lost revenue. I also believe they kind of moved away from this request anyway. So we'll just take F and G then. So no on F and G. Commissioner Kenny?
Yes, I concur. Thank you.
And I think everyone else has already concurred on that. Commissioner Holzman, did you reference F and G?
I think Commissioner Coleman didn't weigh in on F and G.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right. Commissioner Coleman?
Yeah, I didn't weigh in on that at the time, but I'm a no on both F and G.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Holzman?
No on F and G.
All right, so we will move on to the next question I have, Commissioner Kenny, is which savings items identified in the non-unanimous stipulation, now which we're treating as a position statement, should be deferred by Evergy? So I think all of the savings items identified in paragraph 7 of the non-unanimous stipulation should be deferred. I think that their inclusion is reasonable and supported by the record, and I don't think any party opposed the inclusion of the savings items. Commissioner Kenny,
I agree with you.
Commissioner Roop,
I agree as well.
Commissioner Coleman.
I'm in agreement with your comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Holzman.
I support the chairman's position.
Okay. The next question, are there any other savings items that the commission believes should be deferred? So I'm fine with including OPC's recommendation for Evergy to defer savings for reduced allocation of costs from shared services or parent organization costs. Otherwise, I think some of their other suggested items would be covered by what is already in paragraph 7 of the non-unanimous STIP. But to the extent that OPC is correct and OPC's item 9 of reduced labor expense and reduced incentive pay or employee bonuses is not entirely captured by the agreement's provision for reduced employee compensation and benefits, I would support also adding that savings item. For the others, I don't think there's enough evidence to show in the record that there would be a causal connection to COVID, like the savings of benefits from using short-term debt and lower interest rates and that sort of thing. So that's my position on question 4. Commissioner Kenny?
I agree with your position, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Roop?
As do I.
Commissioner Coleman?
I also support the chairman's position.
Thank you. Commissioner Holzman?
I support the chairman's position.
All right, that brings us to question 5. Should savings items be booked as a regulatory liability or included as an offset to the regulatory asset? I think it should be treated as an offset to the regulatory asset. Actually, I'm not sure if any party still supports the option to book as a regulatory liability since MIEC abandoned that position in the non-unanimous STIP, but that's where I am, offset to the regulatory asset. Commissioner Kenny?
I support your position.
Commissioner Roop?
As do I.
Commissioner Coleman?
I concur.
And Commissioner Holzman?
I agree.
All right, question 6, what should be the duration of the AAO? I support an AAO for all deferred costs and savings from March 1st, 2020 through March 31st of 2021. Commissioner Kenny?
I am in support.
Commissioner Roop?
I am in support.
Commissioner Coleman?
I agree with that.
And Commissioner Holzman?
I agree.
All right. Question 7, can an extension of the AAO be requested? And if so, should the extension process and method as described in paragraph 8 of the non-unanimous stipulation be what's applied? So I think that Evergy or any of the parties should be allowed to request the commission approve an extension of the AAO. I mean, obviously, the impact of COVID could extend beyond the end of March. So the ability to extend the authorized deferrals would be appropriate and consistent with the commission's approvals, AAOs for Spire and Missouri American Water. As far as the second part, whether the extension process and method should be what the signatories agreed to in paragraph 8, I would say no on that one. The agreement allows for uncollectible expense to be tracked beyond March 31st on a quarterly basis and essentially tracked to see if it's at least 10% more than the amount and rates. Now, I have concerns that this is allowing one single item out of all of the deferred items to be recorded in isolation. So I don't think that the method and reasons for comparing the uncollectibles by the 10% level is supported by the competent and substantial evidence in the record. Commissioner Kenny?
Yeah, I believe that they should be able to request whatever they want on an extension, and I support your position on the 10% or on the rest of it.
Thank you. Commissioner Roop?
I am in agreement as well.
Commissioner Coleman?
I'm in agreement.
And Commissioner Holzman?
I support the chairman's position.
All right, question 8, should carrying costs be excluded during the deferral period and considered for inclusion in rates in Evergy's next general rate case? So I don't know if this is actually a live issue, since I think Evergy abandoned its initial request to defer carrying costs, and I don't think any party, other party is requesting the commission authorize that deferral in this AAO order. I do agree with the parties that the issue of what type of treatment AAO carrying costs receive is more appropriately addressed in the future rate case, though. Commissioner Kenny,
I concur.
Commissioner Roop,
I concur as well.
Commissioner Coleman,
As do I.
and Commissioner Holzman.
I agree.
All right. Question 9. Does the commission wish to direct Evergy to provide the information as described in the reporting of paragraph 9 of the non-unanimous stipulation agreement? This has an A and a B. A, what should the terms of a report, what should be the terms of a reporting requirement? Yeah, I support all of the items in paragraph 9 of the non-unanimous stipulation being reported. I support the terms of the reporting consistent with paragraphs 9, 10, 11, and 12 of the agreement for sub A there. Commissioner Kenny?
I'm in support of that position as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Root?
As am I.
Commissioner Coleman?
I agree also.
And Commissioner Holzman?
I agree.
All right, sub B is OPC and NHC propose Evergy to be directed to provide additional reporting. Are there any additional items that the commission would like Evergy to track and report? I support OPC's recommendation to include the list of COVID-19 related expenses and the respective amount that the company incurred to ensure safe and reliable service. I think that the other recommendations from OPC are either already included in the reporting portion of the agreement that we just addressed. Other recommendations from Public Counsel may have been relevant if the AAO included lost revenue, but since it doesn't, I think just the COVID-19 related expenses is what I would suggest. Commissioner Kenny?
Yeah, I agree with your assessment and concur.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Root?
Yes, that is my viewpoint as well.
Commissioner Coleman?
I'm in agreement.
And Commissioner Holzman?
I agree.
All right, that brings us to question 10. Should an AAO include the conditions related to customer assistance that Evergy agreed to in the non-unanimous stipulation and agreement? I'm going to say no. I think that these conditions essentially identify things that the company has already done or has already indicated that it plans to do or says that it will consider, but doesn't necessarily create an obligation for Evergy to specifically offer payment plans or incentives. So that being said, I hope that the company does adopt additional customer assistance programs and want to commend the charitable contributions that they've already made and that they suggest in paragraph 17 that they will be making across Kansas and Missouri service territories. Commissioner Kenny?
I support your position.
Commissioner Root?
Yeah, I actually would probably say yes on this one because I know that the company has kind of agreed to most of these, and I hope that they would, in the absence of an order, would go ahead and do it. But I would be comfortable with going ahead and saying yes on this one.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman?
I support the chairman's position.
Okay. Commissioner Holzman?
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, it dropped me off there, so I had to come back in.
Okay. Okay. So you agree on question 10 for no?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Question 11. Should an AAO include any of the conditions recommended by NHT? I would say no. Having reviewed the conditions, I don't think that the record would support what they're requesting. Commissioner Kenny?
No.
Commissioner Roop?
No.
Commissioner Coleman?
I'm a no also.
And Commissioner Holzman?
No.
All right. Question 12. Should an AAO include any of the conditions recommended by OPC? I'm not inclined to require any of the conditions suggested by OPC. With the authorized deferral of waived late payments and reconnection fees, I think that Evergy is voluntarily already taking those steps. Commissioner Kenny?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Roop,
Nope.
Commissioner Coleman,
I'm a no.
and Commissioner Holzman.
No.
All right, so that brings us to final question 13. There are 4 subparts to this, A, B, C, and D. Should an AAO include any additional conditions or other provisions? First part A, should an AAO require Evergy to track all costs separately for Evergy Missouri Metro and Evergy Missouri West? I would say yes. I don't think any party opposed this, and Evergy agreed to it in paragraph 3 of the non-unanimous SIP, so I think it's reasonable. Commissioner Kinney?
Yes.
Commissioner Roop?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman?
Yes for me.
And Commissioner Holzman.
Yes.
All right. For B, should an AAO prescribe the amount of bad debt expense and late payment fees and service reconnection charges per company? If so, should it be the amounts identified in the non-unanimous stipulation and agreement? I would say yes and yes. I think that the testimony in the record supports the numbers identified in paragraph 4 of the agreement as to the separate amounts included in the company's last rate case. Commissioner Kinney?
I concur.
Commissioner Roop?
I agree. Yes.
Commissioner Coleman?
Yes.
And Commissioner Holzman?
Yes. Yes.
All right. C, should an AAO require Evergy to, 1, make available to the parties a proposed monthly reporting format and copies of the policies and procedures that will govern the calculation of monthly deferral amounts, and 2, require disclosure and consultation with interested parties regarding the accounting practices and procedures? Yes, I think in the non-unanimous STIP, Evergy agreed to provide this information to the signatories, but I think it should also be made available to the parties. Commissioner Kinney,
I concur.
Commissioner Roop,
Yep.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
and Commissioner Holzman.
Yes.
All right, and final decision, should an AAO include additional provisions to provide for the allocation of costs and savings between the 2 companies, also taking into consideration the 2 states in which Evergy operates? I would say yes. Commissioner Kinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Roop,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
and Commissioner Holzman.
Yes.
All right, so that concludes case discussion. Judge, does that give you the direction you need to proceed with the order?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much, commissioners.
All right, and thank you again for a very well-written memo. Okay, so that brings us to scheduling. Wednesday, January 6th, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. There's also a commission workshop on the cogeneration rules for EW 2021-0077. That is at 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Wednesday, January 13th, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. Also, there will be Ameren's Callaway Energy Center refuel presentation at that agenda. Thursday, January 14th, evidentiary hearing scheduled in EC 2020-0408. This is Missouri Landowners Alliance and Marischal v. Grainbelt Express LLC, Invenergy Transmission LLC, and Invenergy Investment Company. That's at 9 a.m. via WebEx, Judge Graham presiding. Friday, January 15th, we have an evidentiary hearing in WC 2020-0407. That's Scott v. Missouri American Water Company at 9:15 a.m. via WebEx, Judge Jacobs presiding. Wednesday, January 20th, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. We have Liberty's State of the Company presentation at that agenda. We also have a local public hearing in WR 2020-0344. That's Missouri American Water Company's general rate case. That's via WebEx, Judge DePel presiding. Riverside, St. Joseph, and Lawson will be at 6 p.m. Thursday, January 21st, local public hearing in WR 2020-0344. That's the same case, Judge DePel presiding. St. Louis will be at 6 p.m. On that day. Friday, January 22nd, local public hearing, same case, via WebEx, Judge DePel presiding. The City of Arnold will be at noon. Monday, January 25th, local public hearing, same case, Judge DePel presiding via WebEx. Maryland Heights will be at noon. Ferguson will be at 6 p.m. Tuesday, January 26th, local public hearing, same case, via WebEx, Judge DePel. Warsaw and Warrensburg will be at noon. Jefferson City, Mexico, and St. Charles will be at 6 p.m. Wednesday, January 27th, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. We have an evidentiary hearing in EO 2020-0262. That's Evergy's 9th prudence review of FAC costs. That will be at 9 a.m. via WebEx, Judge DePel. Thursday, January 28th, evidentiary hearing, again, a continuation of that case, Judge DePel via WebEx at 9. And Friday, January 29th, we have a local public hearing in WR 2020-0344. That's Missouri American Water Company's general rate case via WebEx, Judge DePel. Branson and Joplin will be at 6 p.m. that day. That gets us out through the end of January. Are there any questions, comments, or requests regarding scheduling? All right, that concludes our open discussion business. We do have one closed personnel item to discuss today. So I will make a motion to go into closed session under section 610.021 sub 3 and or sub 13 to discuss personnel. Is there a second?
Second by Kenny.
Seconded by Kenny. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to go into closed session, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries 5-0. We will adjourn immediately upon conclusion of the closed session. Commissioners, you have instructions on how to